Guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And at the end of the video, we talk about the viewer's pick of the week, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. Now let's get started. It was a, pretty average size haul for me. I've got about 11 comics, and number 11 for me is Avengers issue 4. I like this series, but I don't love this arc. I'm not a big fan of the villains here, and I think the first two issues did a better job at making it more about the Avengers, and now these last two issues have been much more about the villains, who I'm not as interested in. I also don't feel like the art is the strongest here. I do feel like there's points where it feels a little sketchy to me. So overall, I gave this one 2 stars. I still want to see where the series goes, but I'm not really sure how this arc's gonna go. Now moving on to number 10 for me, which is the Spider-Man Annual, issue 1. I am picking up Spider-Man again, this version of Spider-Man. I've been picking up Amazing Spider-Man forever, but, I didn't love the first arc with Dan Slott's run, but I really like what he's doing with Spider-Boy and injecting something new to the Spider mythos. This has nothing to do with any of that. So Dan Slott, I don't even think writes this. It's I think a crossover event. So Marvel has done this in the past where they use different annuals to tell one cohesive story instead of just telling it in a mini series. And this is very much a versus match. It's Wolverine versus Spider-Man. There's some connection to the Midnight Suns comic book with Agatha, and we get to see her story. And like I said, most of it's just fighting in this issue. If you're reading Spider-Man, you really don't need to read this issue. I didn't even know this event was going on, so I picked this up thinking I'm going to see more of Dan Slott's run, and that doesn't happen here. So I was a bit disappointed with that, and I'm not a huge fan of just, blind fighting and versus matches. They're just not as interesting to me. I like a little injection of more of a plot, something that's going to drive the characters a little bit more, and I don't feel like that did that here. But the artwork's pretty solid for it, so overall giving that 2 stars, and that is number 10. Alright, moving on to number 9. We're still in Night Terror's zone, and that's Night Terror's Green Lantern issue 2. As you saw, I actually didn't pick up all the titles I picked up from the last month. Like, I didn't pick up Robin's, there's a few I'm just like, Zatanna. I didn't really like the first issue enough to follow it through. But these books I got this week, I liked enough to see where issue 2 was going. And one of the biggest disappointments I'm learning with these issue 2s is that they continue somewhere else. I do not like that. Just give me issue 1 and issue 2 and end the story. Pretty much all these stories are like, go read this one shot that has to finish Night Terrors. And this issue, if you like Parallax, you get that inner demon and fighting between Parallax and Green Lantern, but there's nothing here that really strikes to be different, and I just want to see the normal Green Lantern series, and it just feels like a big stall to me. So overall, giving that, I believe I gave that 2 stars. Let me check though. Yes, that was 2 stars. Moving on to number 8. The other Night Terrors book, Night Terrors Shazam, issue 2. I actually liked the first issue because it was doing something a little different. It was with Mary Marvel, so you're like, okay, I haven't seen Mary in a while because Shazam is mostly about Billy. And this I just felt like was kind of cheesy, especially the lines about the dreams and the nightmares. I get some of the internal fight of, okay, maybe I'm not Captain Marvel. Maybe Billy Batson is the Captain Marvel of this universe, and I feel second fiddle. And they play with that very tiny bit here. The rest is the internal battle between these other characters of the family, where there's a lot of family members in Shazam, so they give like 2 pages each, and it just felt cluttered. And again, the ending's like, if you really want the ending of this book, go check out this random one-shot, which I'm probably not going to go check out. So giving that 2 stars. The artwork also I thought could have been stronger for this one, and yeah, I was pretty disappointed with that. All right, moving on to and that was 2 stars. Moving on to number 7, which is Barnstormers issue 2. I liked the first issue. I felt like it set up this really dreamy world. It set up the characters really well. This issue, I realize I don't like the characters. I don't know if there's none of the personalities where I'm like, whoa, they're a really fascinating character. I think I like the ambiance of this comic a little bit more, obviously from the artwork and this, again, very dreamy look to the book, and then also them having an adventure and playing this kind of Bonnie and Clyde story. But as individual characters, I don't know if I'm like sinking my teeth into it, and those are the stories I tend to like a little bit more. Definitely not a bad book. I just don't know if it's particularly for me. We'll see if I get issue 3, but I definitely liked issue 1 a little bit more as the setup issue. So giving that 3 stars, and then is number 7. All right, moving on to number 6, which is Ghostlore, issue 4. Another book I've been kind of conflicted on, because there's this really interesting route about this dad and daughter, right? And that they don't really like each other, but they kind of have to stick with each other because the rest of their family died, and they both have this shared experience of seeing ghosts. And every issue, like for 5 pages, we see another story about a ghost that isn't as interesting to me. And anytime I feel like we get to the root of like, okay, why do they not like each other? We don't actually dig any deeper. The only thing we see is that she smokes cigarettes, and that's what makes her a rebel. I want to like dig a little deeper into their relationship, and I feel like because they keep going back to a random ghost story, you don't actually get to see their relationship very much. So I'm on the fence if I'm going to get the next issue. I really like the concept of this, and I really love the artwork. I was a big fan of Basketful Heads. It's the same art. So there's something that makes me want to stick to this book, but also I feel like it's not giving us that next level. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 6. All right, moving on to number 5. And number 5 for me is World's Finest Teen Titans, issue 2. I thought issue 1 was a little bit stronger. This issue, we get to see a lot of the soap opera-ness that we all, know and love from Teen Titans, but there's nothing completely new. I like that we get it from Wonder Woman's point of view, but I feel like they maybe tried focusing on too many dramatic aspects of the characters without it really being set up in the last issue. I just feel like it was a little bit of a hosh-posh, but a fun hosh-posh, because I do like the drama, and I do like these characters. I just want to see what the full vision of how do we make this different from other Teen Titans books while still keeping it similar to other Teen Titans books. I know it's a hard balance, but I'm curious to see where that takes us. The artwork is obviously very solid for this book, so I've been enjoying that aspect. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, really the only Night Terrors book I like next to Superman. We'll see if Superman follows through with issue 2. But Night Terror is The Flash, issue 2. I'm not even I like Flash a lot, but it's not like, oh man, Flash is my boy. So I've been pleasantly surprised with this book. And the thing that I feel like this book did better than maybe some of the other Night Terrors books that I was talking about before is that there is this heartstring. There is an emotional through line of Barry's story and seeing his loved ones getting hurt, or even seeing his old loved ones like his mom. So we get that emotional through line as we actually see him becoming grotesque and being affected by the Speed Force in this nightmare. And even though it's a very similar story, he's going through a nightmare and has this internal battle because of it. There is feels to be a little bit more of a plot and feels to be a bit more of a character-driven story, where I think that was necessary for these one-shots, because obviously I don't know if this is actually going to affect anything in the DC universe. It does feel like a stall, but why not give the opportunity to tell a really fun character story? And I feel like The Flash did that pretty well. Artwork could have been stronger. The lines are very thin for this, and there's times where I felt like Nora and Iris looked very similar, so I thought that was a little interesting. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. All right, moving on to number 3, which is Silk, issue 4, a book that I keep saying I think is very under the radar. I think it's a very simple story. It's Cindy telling her brother, hey, you can't be a hero, you don't have powers, I'm going to deal with this. And then the villains also having a brother-sister dynamic, and we seeing that come to a head of the brothers having a different idea for what their sisters should be doing. And, I don't think it reinvents the wheel in any way, but I like that it's a continuous story. It builds the relationship between Silk and her brother. And the story is interesting, and they build interesting villains where you're like, oh, that's a cool foil for each other's characters. And, it's cool to dig into the dream aspect. I like the art. I think it fits very well for this book. And overall, if you like Silk, I think this is the best Silk has been in a long time. Not saying that the previous volumes weren't good. It's just, it feels like very tight, because it is this 5-issue miniseries and still progressing these characters and plot while still kind of telling this contained story. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. All right, moving on to number 2, which is Superman Annual, issue 1, or issue 2023. And, I like this issue. I like getting to see the point of view of Lois Lane being editor-in-chief. And that's pretty much the issue, right? There's nothing that's like, whoa, that happened. We do get to see some of the new villains introduced. So if you like that aspect, you do get a little bit of that. But yeah, no, I just enjoyed seeing Lois kind of take charge and figure out what her role is with the Daily Planet as her role has changed. And the artwork is solid for this book. And it's also just interesting and fun to see the other cast members. So overall, giving that one 3.5 stars, and that is number 2. All right, moving on to number 1. I think you guys are gonna be pretty surprised by this because I don't think it's been my pick of the week for a while. So that is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 31. The reason I gave this pick of the week is that it does progress the plot a lot, and there's some elements that have already been announced. So one, which is the title, Mary Jane becomes Jackpot. This is the first appearance. We knew she was gonna become Jackpot because it's already been told that we're getting more stories in The Amazing Spider-Man. I think she's getting her own series. I don't remember. But we already knew this was going to happen. But it was fun to actually see how that was going to happen. And that's something I liked about this issue. There's a lot of elements that, yeah, I knew Superior Spider-Man was coming back, but at least he's here. Yeah, I knew Spider-Woman was coming back too, and here's a little teaser for that. It felt like the plot was being progressed. And also it felt a little old school at the same time, especially with the wedding. That's how we open up, where we're like, okay, this is a bad wedding, and of course there's going to be a villain there. Someone's going to get hurt, and that's the issue. It felt classic in that way, but still progresses the drama. There's even a moment where you don't even know if Black Cat and Peter are going to be together, which felt very fast, but it's like, okay, they might not be together, and, Peter is upset. But at least there is movements in that way, and, I think that's what the struggle of this issue is, that I like that there's progression, but I don't know if I liked every element that happened, right? Do I like that Black Cat and Peter have broken up randomly? No, I don't love that. Do I like the Beetle and Randy together? They're fine. But I love that Mary Jane is Jackpot, and I love that has nothing to do with Spider-Man, and I love that Black Cat and her have a really great friendship, but it did have to be driven by this children arc. I don't know. And did Spider-Woman's agency also have to do with her kid? That's the tornness of this issue, but I'm excited to see where Spider-Man goes, and it finally feels like it has a direction, and as a Spider-Man fan, I just enjoyed seeing that and seeing all the teases, but I really do wish most of it was kept in this issue. This could have been an even higher issue if I didn't know Mary Jane was going to be Jackpot, or I didn't know Superior Spider-Man was coming back. Then it'd be like, whoa, look at all these cool things that are happening, and pretty much every single thing in this issue was spoiled, and this is announced. Like, these are announced titles. It wasn't like, oh, some random person spoiled it. Marvel had told everybody what's going to happen with these characters. So that's a little sad, but I like the book. Like I said, as you can see, I'm very torn with it because I enjoy the issue, and I think it's one of the better issues of it, but there's still so much to be torn with Spider-Man. But let me know in the comments below what your conflicting thoughts are about Spider-Man, and let me know what your pick of the week was. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your pick of the week was, like I said, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let's talk about the viewer's pick of the week. And last week was The Sacrificers, issue 1. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.